Welcome to another episode of Leaders Under Crisis. Today we'll be interviewing Patrick J. O'Brien, Director of Communications and Business Relations at Exante, about the current situation of work and its expected future. Hi Patrick, thanks for joining us. Can you start off by telling us how the COVID-19 pandemic impacted Exante in terms of human resources?
I think Exante is a difficult one to gauge because we are an online investment broker. And from our business, we were very limited in the effects of COVID-19 because number one, we have many setups in place to help us from a human resources point of view. We had 35% of our staff already working from home remotely. So from those point of view, we weren't really affected. We also, through our HR department, set up many forums where people could be in contact with us, be it on Skype or through Zoom or through Slack or whatever facilities were available. So people could keep in contact with us and we could keep our meetings up to date. So from that point of view, we haven't been affected. But, I do believe, that your employees are the physical mentality of your company. And it is very important that during that COVID-19 that we protected that. So from human resources point of view, we were pretty okay.
Remote working and teleconferencing has become the norm. How has this been working for you at Exante? And do you think we're experiencing some kind of revolution?
I think the remote working was nearly in place anyway. There's been a lot of advancements in that industry. From a point of view for employees, working remotely, I suppose, saves, commuting to work every day, going into the office every day. It has helped, being a small island, getting around the island cannot be easy in the mornings regarding, traffic and many things. And I think working remotely, a lot of companies, I do believe it's going to be a revolution, but being somebody who believes in this one-to-one, being in the office, because, as long as we work remotely, a lot of people around us, be it cafes, be it small industries who depend on employees for their lunch hours, for their breakfast hours, for coffees are all affected. But I think from an employee point of view, working remotely, I believe the advancements in that area are huge. But then again, from a compliance point of view, from a regulatory point of view, I'm not sure how sustainable it can be for certain employees. But from us, we had many security measures in place for that.
Do you think the workforce has adapted to this way of working?
I think Exante's staff force adapted very well because, as I said, we are in many ways a tech firm. So we were very well prepared for what was going on. I would say for a lot of other companies, they were not hit, they were hit quite badly because, from an IT point of view, from, being up to date with the latest digitalization, it's very important. And I would think that a lot of smaller firms were hit off guard because they had to put stuff into place like giving laptops, putting computers in place, all this kind of stuff. But I think from a point of view of us, yes. But from other firms, I would think that there was a lot of stuff they had to put into place.
Unfortunately, a lot of people have been put on reduced hours. Do you think that this scenario will weed out any inefficient workers?
I think that, many people or many industries had to let people go due to the nature of their business, especially within tourism, hospitality, and these areas. I think that good employees are good employees. And, what has been great during this time of COVID-19 is that many, especially Maltese employers, have done everything in their possibility, to hold on to their employees. So it strengthens, I think. I find, for instance, if I'm working with my colleagues now, I'm learning more about them working remotely than I did maybe in an office environment, because now I'm in their front room every day. I hear their dogs and cats barking or meowing, and I'm getting to know things. So it's really opened up that and a kind of funny side of things as well. It's made it more personal.
Unfortunately, the crisis has had significant financial impact on several businesses. What can different companies do in order to reduce costs, both short-term and medium-term?
Well, from an Exante point of view, I think every company should have a contingency plan in place for their business when things like this go wrong. Of course, when reality bites, and COVID-19 really hit people out of the universe as such. So I think we had already plans in place. But I think that, looking at COVID-19, the lessons that businesses are learned are to be prepared. Also, I think a lot of companies have realized how important is the online business. I'm being online, most companies had to now see where their businesses are going. They need to improve things like the IT side of their companies. They need to look at, where they need to employ people in sales and in marketing. I think marketing is a very big one. I think building up relationships with media houses, with people like that, trying to improve their businesses and looking at different elements. And I think all in all, a lot of companies need to strengthen areas whereas before they might have been lax. But I think it's a positive thing, and people should look at it as a positive thing, because I think going forward now, we are all going to have to learn to keep our business moving. We need to also look at capitalization, building stronger relationships with people. And also, as I said, I think that we are now in a different framework of how businesses work, and I think it can be a positive.
How has your strategy evolved at Exante in terms of keeping revenue streams open?
I mean, Exante's strategy has always been very, we are a very one-stop shop business. We are very up there. We're very tech. We're very with it. I'm very lucky to have very, three trendy young directors behind our company. So from a strategy point of view, I mean, I think our strategy has always been to continue growing, continue building on our platform, continue looking at what our competitors are doing to make sure we are, we are number one in the market when it comes to our platform, but we're only number one because our strategy is always to improve and improve. Of course, situations like COVID-19 has shown how our resilience during this time, that this strategy worked. And I think for companies going forward, that you have to look at areas within your company that will always make it grow and grow, even in the good times.
Do you think it will be easy for businesses to recover from demand disruption?
I think depending on the sectors, it will be, difficult. And also, I suppose, on geographical location. I think, for instance, investment and financial companies, say like Exante, can continue to do well. But I also believe that the tourism sector, the hospitality sector, the media sector can also continue to prosper. Of course, short term, there will be a lot of, minding the purse strings and looking after our finances and spending more wisely. But, I think that we will look at things in a different light. And I think that for company survival, you have to do that.
Okay, so do you see winners and losers in this situation, or do you think it would be business as usual once normality resumes?
I think in all situations, there's winners and losers. I'm an old traditional type of guy, and I like traditional businesses. I'm talking now about your local grocery store or your local retail shop. Malta is by its nature a traditional island, and I think a lot of these companies during COVID-19, when their doors closed, business closed, because they didn't have an online side of business. But I know the Chamber and many companies have been pushing the smaller retailers, especially, to get online and be a part of this. So I think in the short term, they will be the losers. But I think that, many shops and many businesses in Malta have a very, being small, we tend to come together to help people out in times of badness. And I'm sure when the shop doors reopen again, that people will be there to help. But of course, there's always winners and losers in every situation.
Let's turn to the role of the business leader. What mindset should the CEO, business leader have in this kind of situation?
Well, I think, leaders and CEOs, this is their time to shine. And I think, we all look to leaders in these situations, to our bosses, to give us guidance. And I know from an Exante point of view, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very young CEO who is more engaged probably now with the employees. I know we are a company with hundreds of staff. on a daily basis, especially with heads of departments, making sure that we all communicate and, we work together to keep this company going. But I do think leadership is very important. And I think that CEOs of today, especially dealing with COVID-19, will definitely be the challenge for people like me and other employees to go forward.
And what about you, Patrick? I know you are a very positive person. What are you doing to stay focused during this time?
Well, from a personal point of view, as I mentioned, I'm a positive old soul anyway. And I think in business, I maintain positive by keeping in contact with my colleagues, with my friends, seeing where also, as I mentioned earlier, we have a voluntary CSR program through Exante, where we are out there doing our bit to the most vulnerable. And I think it's very important for all of us to keep our minds active, but most of all, I think, to be positive and to remember that, this can be dealt with and we can all get over this. But I think that, you have to remain positive in these times. And, I presume I could be a bit more healthier and keeping fit and doing all these things. But, we all have our ways of dealing with things. And I think that my way of dealing with it is, by keeping in contact with people probably that I haven't been in contact with for a long time. So there's always ways to keep your mind active and busy.
It goes without saying that the pandemic's disruption has not only affected businesses, but also the community. Do you think now is the time for businesses to step up and maybe offer solutions to the community?
I think it's very important that businesses, I've always maintained this, that businesses, either from a CSR point of view or from a supportive point of view, are always there to help out their local communities. I mean, the communities, be it from, the government is doing its part regarding its health measures in, helping people to get through this. I think local businesses can help people by also going out there once all this is over, making sure we maintain and keep this going as quickly as possible, so we can all be there for one another to make sure that businesses work in a good way.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So that was Patrick J. O'Brien, Director of Communications and Business Relations at Exante. See you next time for another episode of Leaders Under Crisis.